joined business, I used to meet a lot of sales people, and I used to be in awe of them. Only education. Someone was a science graduate, someone was engineering student who didn't get enough marks, and by default, because he couldn't succeed elsewhere, he had joined the sales thing. And from being an army, even in our company, people have achieved great peaks just by liking people, interacting with people, building relationships. So there cannot be any substitute to a salesman. Even WhatsApp company, which was sold for billions and billions of dollars, had 55 people who are actually their salesmen. So I would say that it's an evergreen job, and more than that, it's an evergreen passion.
My take on this, I've heard, earlier also, somebody saying death of a salesman. Now, in the tech world, where everything is available in terms of information and codified information, you can go to sites which gives comparative analysis of, in fact, many of the youngsters choose a restaurant based on the rating of the restaurant, how many stars and things like that, which means that there is already information about ambience and things like that. I think, if you are looking at the job of a salesman only as a provider of information, then that particular dimension of the job has undergone a change. Who does the job of convincing and matching the customer requirement with what they have to offer? I think if machines or intelligent machines can take over that function, then it will be good, but there will be one limitation. The major limitation is machines will find it difficult. Any intelligent programs will find it very difficult to understand the emotional quotient of the buying situation of the customer. And that's where a human being makes a big difference. Therefore, all that one needs to understand is that the specific role of a salesman, what was there several years ago, has undergone a change to some completely different persuasive kind of a skill based on a completely different premise due to a difference in customer usage experience. That is what has undergone a change, and not the role of a salesman. Therefore, that's what my take on it. I think he will be able to give you a practical
about the present context, whether do we need salesmen or not. But I think now now you really need salesmen for reason. Now choices are increased for a consumer. His expectations are increased. His exposure is more. And when choices are more, expectations are more, needs are more, real selling is become very, very difficult. You cannot fool your customer. If you want to sell, suppose a mobile to a customer, he knows everything, or she knows everything. So job has become difficult to sell. But then you have to come out with selling techniques which is out of data. You really know the good points about your product. Selling stories are very good, then only you. But otherwise selling has become easier also for a salesman. Reason is that now you know much more about your customer or consumer before you approach him or her. With the knowledge on internet about leads you get, about fees paid or anything. You can approach your customer in a number of ways, not only personally. You can sell yourself not only by one-to-one, but there are a number of ways to take. Like he's talking about personal experience. Let me tell you, a salesman who is selling FMCG product like food products, selling to a shopkeeper, used to go to a shopkeeper, I'm talking about 20, 30 years back, he'll go there, he'll say, आपने पिछले एक महीने में क्या खरीदा, वीक में क्या खरीदा, कॉम्पिटिटर्स के बारे में, हाँ क्या प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च हुआ है, क्या प्राइसिंग है, वहीं जाके ऑन द स्पॉट ही यूज्ड टू गेट ऑल द इंफॉर्मेशन. Or he used to first go to the wholesale dealer, get the information that what retailers on his beat had purchased in the last 1 month or previous year. But he used to keep all this data. But now things have changed. Now salesman is on a tablet, has got every information about the retailer, what he has purchased, analysis about competitors' information, what new products have been launched, everything. He knows everything before entering the shop. And in fact, he tells the shopkeeper, देखिए भैया आपका, you are ordering 6 pieces, but you have been selling 9 pieces last 1 year. See, here is the data. So this data availability, hands-on has become very, very good. And for decision making. I think with the committed, no doubt, now time has come for a good salesman who has got good knowledge and updated knowledge. And it is going to be difficult. Selling is gradually becoming difficult because the consumer has got more choices.
I'd like to add a point here. I think, while I'm an optimist, I'm a Sagittarian. Sagittarian is supposed to be a blind optimist who thinks that even broken glasses can mend by themselves. But I see a terrible future for the economy, for business, for the simple reason that there is a tremendous, pathetic shortage of good salespeople in the world. The largest, Professor Koshy said it, so I will take it as absolute fact. He is such a great researcher and scholar, that the largest workforce in India is of salespeople. But believe me, most of you feel bad when you go through a particular purchase transaction. You never feel that you're a winner. Whereas the objective of a sales transaction is a win-win kind of a scenario where the salesperson feels good because the customer is feeling fantastic. Now what's happened is, it's something very ironic succeeded. The product is already finding its place into the shop shelves. The younger, untrained, rookie salesperson finds himself in the 4th brand. The only problem is, most guys don't want to start with the 4th or the 3rd brand. If you want to begin with the brand number 1, do you think that the senior bosses in brand number 1 are going to risk putting you in the toughest territory? So you're not going to have what is called baptism by fire. And you need baptism by fire. Some of us have grown up being kicked around, pushed around by our bosses who actually had their objective very clear. Make a champ out of this fellow. We didn't realize it at that time. We were swearing at our bosses. Today we swear by those very bosses. So it's about youngsters are realizing that they need to be damn good at it. Now let's look at it from the other perspective. Are we in the business of buying mobile phones every day? No, we are not, unless we are dealers for mobile phones. Are we in the business of buying expensive machinery? No, we are not. So why should we bother ourselves with so much intricate information? Why not have some expert come and solve our... In fact, in all my sales training sessions, I never say, go and tell your customer that your product is God's greatest gift to humanity. Even you are God's greatest gift to humanity. Tell the customer, you have a problem, I have a solution, and I can take care of it, and that's it. Let the customer sleep in peace, not rest in peace. The problem with most of us is, me, my product, my company, my boss, my bag, my price list, me. Whereas even in business, and there is a small bookmark given to each one of you, which says, the only way to do business is to sell, but did you notice one thing? Even in the word business, you comes before I.
Yes.
So it's always putting the customer first. And if it's about putting the customer first, then I think the salesperson needs to be a thinker. It doesn't have to be a gift of the gab, great talking kind of a salesperson with a foot in the door, no data gone. And that's exactly what all of them want you to be. And that's true. You need to be an expert in your customer's business than even in your own business. Please pardon me if I make a statement. You may get away with 98% knowledge about your product, but you will not survive if you don't have 120% knowledge of your customer. And I guess that is where I feel, sir, that the salesperson will never die. On the contrary, the salesperson is going to become a very unique combination of a thinker, a listener, an observer, a great communicator, a guy with the biggest heart in the world, a guy with the biggest pair of hands so that he looks up to you securely, and a guy with the strongest legs because he needs to cover the territory very quickly, very agile, and also taking care that he doesn't let the ball slip between his feet to go to the boundary. But there are three luminaries that I selected them only for the simple reason I tell you, it's a very wicked combination. You have someone who's been practicing the art at various places, fine-tuning it. There's another man, and look, you'll never get such a wonderful combination of a milkman, a chaiwala, and most of you don't know, I saw biscuits. Okay? And a person who enjoys all three. So please. Yes, sir.
Mike?
First of all, sir, please excuse me. I am just returning from one holy function at some temple, so I am in this dress. So, already excuse me. I have, sir, one question. And there is some observation. In which condition joy is more? Attaining the sales target by over-advertised brand, not possessing the desired or expected quality, or the someone who selling moderately advertised brand possessing good standard of quality. So this is my first part of the question, sir. So, more or less you see that brands are very widely advertised, and so in my one Goa convention, I had made some observation which I can only tell you, which I cannot tell you open. Second one is second part of the question, what you said, sir, regarding chaiwala. So we are also chaiwala. So in which condition joy is more? Say a leader is also a perceived value. He possesses some certain type of perceived value. There are two PM candidates now, sir. One is our Chief Minister, Mr. Modi, and on the other side, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. So, whose supporters will discover the joy of selling? Whose supporters will get the joy of selling a widely advertised brand, or vice versa? Thank you.
I think if you want joy of selling to be there for longer period, option 2 is better. Because joy of selling, the first option where you are selling heavily advertised brand with not so high on quality, it will come only once, then you have to leave the job. Because sales are going to decline afterwards. But in case of second option, when you say a moderately advertised but good quality product, reasonably priced, really meet your selling efforts, and you are going to get more satisfaction because whatever you will find your own contribution in that, and it is going to improve, and growth is going to come month after month, month after month, and you will feel satisfied. When the first option, one day because of yesterday, the outside we have seen a product advertised heavily, making so many claims that by eating one spoon of this powder, your son will get 100% marks, your brain is so, and which is actually not going to. The next year or next month sales are going to decline, then you will, as a salesman, you will frustrated, you will be blamed that you are not able to achieve. For a salesman, second option is always better, you enjoy more.
Can I add?
But sir, at present what we see that before somebody वो तो खुद नहीं पाएगा अपना आनंद उसकी जनरेशन बाद में पा सकता है.
Brands cannot be built overnight. Let me tell you, Professor, कोई brands cannot be. तो आप रात को advertisement करें, अगर that is not a sell brand building.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm sorry to introduce myself.
No, no,
I am myself Piyush Desai.
I was looking forward to the pleasure of doing that, sir. Shri Piyush Bhai Desai, Chairman of Wagh Bakri team, and excellent question. So may I provide, see, they say that to get a batsman out, there are always two different kinds of deliveries. Now the intention is not to do that, but the first is, you asked about joy of selling. Yeah. Let me define selling, as the books may like to, I don't like definitions. Selling is the process of meeting or exceeding targets with balanced activity in the most productive way, while adhering to company policies and guidelines and contributing to maximum revenue as well as customer delight through adequate ongoing communication. I hope I haven't been breathless about everything. But selling is a lot like marriage. But selling is marriage. So when you're asking about joy, one needs to give a very guarded answer. Joy doesn't happen on the... Is some married person switching off the electricity or something? Joy, no, I thought someone was knocking it off. Joy is something that doesn't happen overnight. Joy is and that is why I talked about joy and not happiness. Happiness is probably momentary. Joy is something that grows over a period of time. It begins long before the actual transaction of the sale takes place. The very idea of meeting somebody, understanding the person, listening to that person, getting to know the exact pain, stress points of the person, and then telling him, I'll take care of it. And then proceeding to do it day after day, month after month, year after year. My wife is going to say that I'm still in the initial stages of that process, beginning to understand things, and I confess, yes, most of us do. Hopefully we have another 40 years together. Now, in this process, it's not about which does a person enjoy more or which a person enjoys less. Another thing जो आपने कहा ना कि हंस और कौवे की बात कर रहे थे, ये रहने ही वाला है. अभी मैं किताब लिख रहा हूँ, लोगों के लिए, खासकर यंगस्टर्स के लिए है. इसका फायदा शायद 10, 15, 20, 25 साल के बाद होगा. तो होने दीजिए, अच्छा है ना. जो आदमी बीज फेंके जा रहा था सड़क के दोनों किनारे, वो अपने लिए पेड़ नहीं बो रहा था. It was for generations to take advantage of over years. And I'm glad you raised this point, sir, because you have given me an opportunity. A big advertiser, a reasonably big advertiser, a person who doesn't advertise himself, but everybody else advertises him, and a man who advertises the least. But who are you listening to? You know, I mean, jokes apart. This book is all about that. This book is not about feeling thrilled that you got a deal. Rocket Singh jumps up in the air when he gets an order. This book is not about that because, as Professor Koshy wrote in the foreword also, Ranga was busy doing what he wanted to do, ride his bike. In the process, he kept collecting awards and orders. So, the joy is not from a particular sale. The joy is from the constant, ever-evolving process of building up a relationship. And I would definitely thank you for having asked this question, because this is what I think people must look deep down into their hearts and say, yes, joy is going to come first to the customer and then to us. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I want to ask a question about which I also wrote in an email when I received the invite. We have professors of marketing in almost every college. We don't have professors of selling. Why is this? If this is the biggest profession that's said in India, why is it not getting the kind of recognition within institutes that it should be?
So Dr. Koshy is the best person to answer this.
The aggregation of area is actually at a much broader level. Now, when you are looking at marketing, there are different disciplines, sub-disciplines within that. You don't call a professor at that sub-discipline level, and that is why. In fact, if you look at other people who specialize in sales and distribution, and you cannot call professor of sales and distribution, so which means that it will be too narrow. You can't call somebody professor of brand management or something, although the person might be specializing in that area. It's not because, in fact, if you look at most of the good business schools, each of these sub-disciplines are covered. Pricing, for example, is a very important element. In fact, pricing cuts across basic economics and costing, as well as the market side of pricing. So therefore, somebody who teaches that need to have a good grasp of economics, need to have a good grasp of costing and cost allocation, and a good grasp of marketing side. So it's only because of that aggregation that this kind of a thing is happening. There's no professor of selling, not because that a particular domain is de-emphasized in the field.
To design. Did you all, you noticed a bookmark on your chair? You must have seen a word that is there on both sides of it. What is the common word? Awards. Well, Chandresh bhai, I'm glad you asked this question because awards is a course by itself. I want to ask all of you one question. I read out this thing called I Am a Salesman. How many of you would like to have a copy of it? 1, 2, 3, 7, 8.5. 9 and 3 quarters. Okay, great. This particular oath, which is as effective as the oath of Hippocrates, is available free with the book. Now you have a professor of sales. Awards is a movement where I encourage each one of you to join. You will find a lot of details about awards. It's a noble movement. It is as good as an institution. And hopefully, Chandresh bhai, with your support, we'll create a university of awards. This is not those trophies and things like that. It is a great, great desire that will get fulfilled over a period of time. I'm thankful that you asked this question.
The customer you are going to. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I mean, a person can understand how many businesses, and my understanding of a business would be different from actually what he is doing. So can you just elaborate on that? What would be like comment? Thank you. Sir, Rangaswamy, it is for you.
Oh, I was trying to evade it. We spent 9 Sundays discussing it, didn't we? Okay, fair enough. Yes, how do I understand everybody else's business when I'm not able to figure out my own business is what most salespeople would be thinking. The simple answer, one sentence answer is, just forget what business you are in. It just doesn't matter. What matters is, what is the other person doing? And how you can help take care of sorting out. Look, I want to take my own case. For the last 20 odd years, I have been in the business of, that's what people say, home beautification. Okay? Now, in home beautification, there are many experts as such. There are architects, there are interior designers, there are builders, there are masons, there are painters, there are all kinds of people. If I were to sell to an architect, most salespeople will think, I must make this architect like my tile. But the architect knows tiles better than me. This is a misunderstanding. An architect is not in the business of knowing tiles. An architect is in the business of architecture. Full stop. As an architect, how many headaches does he have? And can I reduce 99 headaches to 98 or 97? And that is it. So how do I come in as someone who can relieve this person of 1 or 2 of his problems? If you are a fan of Raja Mehdi Ali Khan, the great Shair, he said, अगर मुझसे मोहब्बत है तो मुझे अपने सारे गम दे दो, इन आँखों का हर एक आंसू मुझे मेरे सनम दे दो. The problem is salespeople don't want to sing these songs. If you don't tell the guy, give me one of your worries and I'll take care of it. You live with the other one, I'll take care of this worry. So you do. You are selling drilling equipment. Let us say you import drilling equipment from China. Okay? You are not in the business of A lot of people say I am in the business of building equipment. You are actually in the business of probably creating something or excavating something or exploring something or getting into the root of something. And that is where you can tell exactly how your key fits that particular lock. Otherwise, like the Victoria 203 heroes will lock their way, they'll have a key in their hand and they'll be looking for locks all over the world. This book tells you exactly how to do that.
Able to take and to train the freshers, train the fresh minds according to the goals of your company, or to acquire ready-made talent in the market, which are there in the industry. It's quite long period of time and doing their work.
Okay. I think very difficult to give a one-side answer for this. Now, if you look at the industry, what is a major problem? You know, if you want to get experienced people in a particular line, then you have to, fit them in with the kind of job. If you look at Eureka Fox, for example, they pioneered the direct marketing in India. I mean, initially when they started, they didn't have, sales people. And they started one of the most successful programs whereby they picked up basically trainable material, people who had a certain wherewithal to actually succeed. And I trained those people and were extremely successful. And the way in which the very, very segmented, very rigid, systemic way in which they train actually became a gold standard in the industry in terms of training salespeople. This is true in most of the industries. Very, very unrelated example, completely unrelated example if you want to know about this. This comes from my own understanding of IM here. I don't know how many of you know, this was the second IM established in the country. The first one was in Calcutta and second in Ahmedabad, and the age difference is 1 year. When IM Ahmedabad was started, there were no management faculty anywhere available in this country. No management faculty because there were no PhD programs. There were no management teaching academics as a profession in this country. And therefore, the initial collaboration with Harvard, you had initially people coming from Harvard and what the institute did was that they picked up bright people who had good postgraduate qualification. And they were seconded to some of the Harvard professors. And they were sent for a shorter program at Harvard Business School for ITP, International Teachers Program. They came back and then on a selective basis, many of them were sponsored for their PhD abroad, where the institute picked up their entire expenses. They formed initially, after 3-4 years, they formed the core of the faculty of IIM Ahmedabad. Today, there are PhD programs everywhere. And yet, we still go through a very rigorous process of identifying the better of the talent. Not everybody who has a PhD is, likely to be a good academic. So therefore, there are situations where you pick up raw but trainable material, train them and fit them with the job. There are situations where you look for lateral entry if that fits in, because you want to cover certain distance pretty fast. So there is no single solution for this.
Very good morning to the panel. I'm so happy to see all of the distinguished people out. My question is all of you. I am from the field of jewelry. I remember my father and my uncle saying that earlier when we were doing business, people gave 1 kg of gold to us and they say that 4 bangles banana hai, 2 ye banana hai, 3 ye banana hai. Acha lage, aisa bana. Today, even after having 1,000 products at our showroom, still my people are not able to sell. So the whole concept of selling has generated from something different what we had to a different stage. Now there are a lot of new people and old people both coming to us, the generations, 2 generation gap. Selling to both this generation is totally different task. The old generation, which my uncle, my father were handling, were on a trust basis. They take the younger people along with them to buy, and the younger generation is more on some different path. So, if you can throw some light on this topic and what is the right way to go ahead in this way, I would be very thankful to all of you.
One thing, what does jewelry does to the person who owns the jewelry and wears the jewelry?
Beautification. Yeah.
I mean, beautification is a very obvious thing. I think beautification is a very obvious thing. I think what is important is, and each person would like to make a statement about himself or herself. And the more difficult thing is to find out what is that statement that person has to make. And if you are able to understand that, then you have cracked the code. So therefore, the same design might serve two different purposes for two different people. Because I'm wearing it because I want to be this. It is not only, please understand when I say this thing, everybody, it's not important for people to express themselves to other people all the time. They also want to tell something about themselves to themselves. Isn't it? If somebody who buys a high-end, watch, even if the person has money or, what is the person saying? I mean, a very, very rich person wearing a diamond-studded Rolex, he's not going to make a difference because everybody knows that he's a rich guy. But wearing that, he is actually telling himself that diamond, I can own it. You understand? So therefore, I am a person with a certain kind of taste. Why diamond-studded, why not a diamond-studded Cartier? Why not a diamond-studded, Rado? It depends on the person to express himself. I'm a person who has a refined, evolved taste. Therefore, the trick is, how does a salesman make that assessment? If you go to some of the very high-end, super luxury retailers in some of the big cities abroad, those people seldom ask questions to the customer. Because it's a super high-end luxury, they enter the shop. In fact, the moment they enter the shop, the salesman within a few seconds make an assessment. Is this person going to buy or not? What is the brand of suit he's wearing? What is the type of tie he's wearing? What is the brand of shoes he's wearing? And you make that assessment, you know whether the person has, and then very discreetly follow the person and make an assessment very quietly as to which items is the person's eye is spending more time. In other words, you need to have people who have the ability to, that is what is going to make a difference.
Most interesting about your business could be, it's something like fragrances. Most people don't buy it for themselves. People buy fragrance to gift it to other people. For various reasons. The same fragrance is gifted. Okay. Because I could give a fragrance to someone in a bid to probably walk down the aisle to the altar to exchange vows. But I could also give a fragrance to a guy and say, you better use it here. So, it all depends on who the person is, what is the need, and where exactly that person stands. Professor Koshy wants to add a point.
Just a quick caution about what he said about fragrance. If you're buying a fragrance for the opposite gender, it is understandable. If you're buying a, fragrance, you're a male for another male, then be very, very discreet in, giving it, because the interpretations are very different.
I got
selling only, not by.
Okay, wonderful. Badhiya, property.